My name is Alice. I will tell you about the paranormal events that I have experienced. Since the events are deep, I will start with my family first. My mother and father got married with love, but for a long time, my mother was always upset about their children. Finally, my mother got pregnant, and while she was pregnant with me, she was experiencing paranormal events and had nightmares. Once, while my mother was cleaning the toilet, she was next to him. My mother saw a little girl looking at me in a scary way. She screamed and ran away from there. In her nightmares, Jesus often saw her future child. In other words, she saw that I was damaged. After giving birth to me, I was crying all the time, unnecessarily, for the first 4 months, and there were humming noises coming from my room. My mother did not care about this at first, but I don't know why. When I grew up, he had an amulet made for me when I grew up. I never got a proper answer. He just had it made to protect me. He keeps saying this, but I think that amulet had the opposite effect on me. Now, let's move on to the part I remember. I remember myself from the age of 3. In the house we lived in, there were always strange people, creatures, humanoid shadows. I would see them constantly wandering around the house and hear them talking to each other in a language I didn't understand. These creatures would sometimes scare my family in their sleep. They would come over me as nightmares, and sometimes they would touch me. They would squeeze my arms, scream, scratch my body. I would also get scared and cry, and my family would recite prayers to me. A day or two after reading it, everything would start over again. When I was 5 years old, these events were continuing. Am finally took me to a mosque teacher. They gave me 2 small Qurans and told me to keep those books in my room. They stayed in my room for a while, and I really saw the effect. Nothing happened for a year. They were just coming to my dreams. In my dreams, I constantly saw my family being massacred. I was always committing suicide and waking up screaming from my dreams. When I was 7 years old, these events started to increase. I could feel them wherever I went. Sometimes my body felt like ice. At night, someone would poke or slap me. I would wake up like that. I came. Everything got worse. How can I say it? My clairvoyance ability improved. I was slowly starting to sink into the swamp of the other world. I could sense things that were going to happen, and sometimes I saw them. I'm not sure if it was a dream or not, but some nights, I found myself in completely different places, in a different house or in the forest, where there were many creatures. I'm not sure if it was a dream because, for example, if I fell on the ground there would be scars or purple marks on my body. If the place I went to was cold, I would feel cold. If I was walking in the forest, my feet would hurt me. Some people were looking at me calmly, while others were looking at me harshly. Sometimes they were shouting at me as if they were insulting. While I was walking there, I would suddenly feel something pulling me, and I would faint when I woke up and find myself in my room. I would react strangely when the Adhan or prayer was recited minutes before the morning Adhan. I still do, but I am not actually the one giving that reaction. When I was 12, I told this situation to my family. They did not believe me. I continued to experience these events. Sometimes a man would come to me and always smile at me. He was caressing my hair. He had sharp, shining blue eyes. His body was pitch black. Sometimes he looked human. A man with bright yellow eyes and brown hair with cut marks on his face would try to talk to me. He would say, "How are you? You are getting bigger every day." He would say that we would be even closer in the future. He would talk about my family and relatives' thoughts about me. He would frequently contact me. He would run his cold, sharp hands over my face. He would hold my hand, and sometimes he would take me around. We would play games with him. He would tell jokes and make me laugh. I would feel strangely happy and peaceful next to him, but he wouldn't tell me his name. He wouldn't tell me who he was, what exactly he was, and as a result of my own research. I learned that what I saw was a genie. When I found out, I was suddenly excited. Was that man also a genie? I felt mixed emotions towards him. I felt fear, anxiety, excitement, and a little admiration. Whatever I felt, I couldn't express it. After the night I learned about it, he came to me, told me about the existence of demons and what they were, told me that I shouldn't be afraid, and of course, he told me that I shouldn't be afraid. Months passed. I got used to this situation. I even adapted to the sounds coming at night. When I was 13, I woke up with henna in my hand. It was the strangest day of my life. Sometimes I would see Arabic writings on the wall, and my family continued to have nightmares. As I got older, my dreams and reality started to go out of control. My day and night got mixed up. I was constantly feeling in a state of confusion. I would find it in places. I would have endless wounds and bruises on my body. We would go to the doctor. They would say there was nothing. We would take x-rays. Nothing would be found. At that time, I would see in my dreams that I was either pregnant or going to a celebration somewhere. Whenever I told my family about these situations, they would ignore them in a strange way. When I was 15, I told my mother about the situation again. He suddenly looked at me and said, "Alice, we have enough problems. I can't deal with your demons. Don't mess with us." I was in shock. After that day, I didn't tell anything to my mother for a while. Then a thought started to come to my mind. If I'm magical, something was done to me. My family couldn't have a child years ago. If I was born with magic, or if I come from a lineage of wizards, you are constantly questioning my existence. Because in my dreams, I was constantly seeing a doll amulet or an open grave that looked like me. One day, I was looking for my mother and father's words again, and then I heard what I was afraid of. There was a so-called Hoja from our family elders. According to what I heard, this man had demons. That man died when I was 3 years old, going crazy. That is, for an unknown reason. My father loved him. When I was little, he always spent time with him. The man was my great-uncle. He was known as Hoja in the village. He died when I was 3 years old. For me, everything happened when I was 3 years old. It started at that moment. I thought the events might have something to do with her. My mother was saying that I spoke in a language she didn't understand at night. Even though they knew I had gone through so much, they never found a solution. When I turned 16, I learned all the facts. In December, I met someone. In fact, he found me, and it was this person who told me what I was going through. It turned out just as I thought. That man told me that he loved me. I didn't believe what he told me at first. I even took a stand. I said, "You are lying. Stay away from me." But the man continued to tell everything. I learned the name of the boy who loved me, his age, his tribe, everything. Let's give that girl a different name. Let's call me now. The wizard who told me was also quite talented. Let's call him David. He wanted to train me, David, but I told him that I was not ready and I refused. The beings that came to me were coming from my great-uncle. So, in a way, they come to me if they have potential. The problem is that I have a younger brother, and he was also going through a little bit of trouble. When he turned 11, I stopped him. I protected my brother by making verbal agreements. I told him about all the events, but I didn't just talk about me. Now my fortune-telling skill has improved. I tell fortunes very well, no matter how good I am at it. Clairvoyance bothers me a lot, because I can see things I don't want. Sometimes that's it. I see painful truths and futures. There are times when I feel very sad. I saw my friend and my pet die. My friend died 2 years ago. My cat died 34 days ago. Those who are listening now may have questions. If this is coming from your great-uncle, why didn't anything happen to his children? I heard that my great-uncle's children are, but some of them were disabled or mentally unstable. They had a lot of family assets, but then the whole family collapsed spiritually. None of them are alive now. Just because I experienced these things does not mean that I will become a wizard. Witchcraft is both very risky and not something that can be learned immediately. Both the person who casts the spell and, in short, in my opinion, it is a meaningless thing here. The only thing that is profitable is actually evil beings, and they are getting stronger.